Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by my good friend, esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howe, joining us. And we're here on Football Theory to talk about the most obvious position battles coming up this training camp, and some of the most important position battles come this training camp for the Longhorns, especially after we got a chance to check out the new look Longhorns for 2025 during the media window. So we'll get into that. But first, let's thank our fantastic sponsor of Football Theory. Let's thank accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Football Theory brought to you by accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but she is a longtime Austin real estate expert. So if you have any concerns or questions regarding real estate in the Austin area, do not hesitate to give her a call today. 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Or you can reach out at Laura at andyallenteam.com. That's Laura at andyallenteam.com. Thank you very much to Laura Baker and her team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. We're very grateful for her support. All right, Jeff, let's talk about, some of the position battles that the Longhorns are going to be having this upcoming training camp. They're one of the strongest rosters in the country, so they don't really have a lot of holes in their roster, but they do have some heated competition at some of these particular spots. Which one stands out to you the most that you want to begin this conversation with?
I'll start in your area of expertise. I think the nickel position in and of itself is fascinating because we saw Grayson Littleton get some first team run there on day one. We know Wardell Mack was the starter there in the spring. We know Jelani McDonald has worked there. Obviously, Jalen Gilbo's got experience in that nickel role. Whether Michael Taff is going to work there some. So I don't know what the plan is, Rod, and I say that in a good way. Like maybe it's going to be opponent specific on who's in that star position, or maybe Grayson Littleton. Like we anytime we talk to sources throughout the spring and summer about the young guys, his name kept coming up. Like you'd hear about Lance Jackson and Cade Phillips and the receivers, but man, Grayson Littleton's name was at the top of that list. Maybe it's at the point, Rod, and I know you watch more of the DBs on Wednesday than I did. Maybe it's at the point where they're just going to give the young kid an opportunity to go win that job and see if he does it.
I mean, with Ohio State as your first game, wouldn't that be a little storyline to have a true? Because you're Ohio State, you go, oh yeah, game plan. We're going after the true freshman. But if you're going to start as a true freshman or even compete for the starting spot as a true freshman, you're already obviously advanced in your rate of development. But guys, I played nickel as a freshman. Different era of football now. There was still Nebraska in the Big 12 back then, run the option. So very different era of football. But hell, Mike Leach had just came into the league that time. So there were still some spread teams we were playing. And it is the action happens so fast, right? The closer you are to the football, the faster things happen. I've always talked about at corner and at safety, you got a bit of a half a second to process and watch things develop. That doesn't happen at nickel. Everything happens fast. You're drinking through a fire hose. A lot of it is just instinct, muscle memory. And for this young man to already be earning the trust of the coaches at nickel as a true freshman, I'm going to do the research, but I got to say this. It's got to set a really high floor for a true freshman, probably at any position, but definitely at nickel and star. If you're now, I don't know if he's going to win the job, but to be competing for it already says a lot about his maturity and development.
I wonder too, Rod, if this is a contingency plan based on the health of Derek Williams. Like if Derek Williams isn't ready and you've got to use Jelani McDonald as safety, now what do you do with the nickel role? Because we talk about, especially that opener, you want as much experience on the field as possible. Yep. Well, if you've determined that you're going to give Jalen Gilbo the opportunity to go win a job at corner opposite Manny Muhammad, because you need experienced corners in this game against Ohio State, right? Because you're going to get on an island. You want guys that have been there. I guess it just determines, hey, do they feel better about Kobe Black or Warren Roberson or one of the young corners? Or do they feel better about Grayson Littleton and the nickel? I think it could, if Derek Williams isn't ready to go, I think it could come down to that. And if that's the case, based on day one, be Gilbo at corner and Grayson Littleton at the star.
I think ultimately, and you've brought this up before, Jeff, I think the Ohio State game will influenced their decision. They heavily influenced their decision. Yeah. It's like we want we want this young buck out here. And we believe that at one point he can win this job. I don't know if they'll allow him as a true freshman to be exposed in that game. I think maybe they'll play him. He'll get some playing time.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately they could limit those reps, like you said, side with experience, and then plan on, honestly, man, by deep in SEC play, he can do kind of what Manny Muhammad did.
Yes.
Like Manny Muhammad late in early on in his career, he started to gain starts and earn starts later on. I feel like that's what could happen to him. But I like what you said. I'm not even sure. And I heard Kenoto Hudson and Mark Orfe references as well. They're not sure who the best 5 are going to be. Yep. Like best 5 DBs. So I think there's a lot of experimenting going on right now to try to figure out, hey, who's going to separate, who's going to hit a wall, whatever. Maybe they're injuries, not going to, you don't want any of that. Try to figure out who their best 5 are. And maybe it's like, hey, man, Derek Williams starts to look really good. 2 weeks before that game, we know we got 3 starting safeties, and that's kind of where we can start building the secondary. But I'll tell you this, Kobe Black, since we're talking about open competitions, because it's like nickel, there's a competition, and I think they're waiting to see what happens at that corner spot too. They both of those spots in the secondary. Kobe Black I thought he looked good. I thought Warren Roberson actually, man, he to me, I think he just looks very technically proficient at corner right now. Yeah. I do. I really, he passes the eye test at corner. And so I think Kobe Black, from what I can gather, I think Kobe Black's leading that competition right now at that corner spot. I think he's going to inspire some confidence. I think he will. If he can be consistent out there, you may end up with a Kobe Black option, and a Grayson Littleton option, and you could have both, depending on the situation. So I think they're looking for their best 6 DBs, and they don't really know how it's going to look right now. They know they got their best 4, but they don't know who the other 2 are going to be.
I'll add a caveat to the Grayson Littleton situation, scenario, what have you, and it should excite everybody watching this or listening to it. Go back to 2023, that game at Alabama. Go look at how much Anthony Hill played in that game. Mm-hmm. If Grayson Littleton is taking snaps at the start against Ohio State, that should be very crystal clear how this staff feels about him as a player, that he ain't going to be here very long. He's going to be in the NFL in 3 years.
That's amazing. Like I said, that to me was probably one of the biggest surprises of, the early window that we got a chance to see, is that a young Grayson Littleton. And we talked about how deep that recruiting class is for DBs, Jonah Williams and Cade Phillips. Those guys have tremendous futures ahead of them, but yet it's Grayson Littleton who may end up contributing earlier than those guys. Fascinating. All right, so that's one, maybe a couple of position battles in the secondary. Another position battle that we know is taking place in training camp for the Longhorns, and it's an interesting one, is at right tackle, because Kyle Flood said it. He said it during the media window for the coordinators. Oh, that's going to be a great competition for us. And it seems like it's not one they're nervous about. It's not like a battle of attrition, right? It's a true competition where they feel like they're going to be all right no matter who wins it. And between Brandon Baker and Andre Kojo, right now, I think Brandon Baker may have the edge there. But he also brought up the third tackle. He said it's big for us to find a third tackle. And I guess whoever loses this battle, are they going to be the third tackle potentially?
Nobody has to take, like, if I said, hey, guess where I was the first day of practice? Well, I'll give you 3 guesses and the first 2 don't count. I was with the O-line most of the time. And what's fascinating about that is the more I think about it, right, and even in the hours since we've been, we're talking about hours since we've been on the practice field watching, I thought, man, is it an either or? Like, either they're, Kyle Flood's trying to light a fire under Brandon Baker or keep that fire going, or he's rewarding Andre Kojo for the strides he's made. Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. Brandon Baker had a really good second half of spring ball, but I think this is Kyle Flood telling him, look, you did a great job. You don't have this job locked up yet. And I think for Andre Kojo, it's, hey, you've come such a long way. Don't quit now, because we're probably going to need you. So I think it's 2 young guys that they're still trying to get the most out of. And I don't think it's being dishonest or anything. I really think that job is open. As far as the number 3 tackle goes, there's some interesting things when you look at how that line works. Yeah. I think Jaden Chapman, who, by the way, opens camp at left tackle, he's been all over the place. I think he's going to be their swing guy. If he's capable of playing, I think he's the guy because he's worked everywhere up front except center. So I think if in a pinch, if you need some depth, I think Jaden Chapman's probably going to be your swing guy.
Okay.
I think Nick Brooks is probably going to be that third tackle at some point. Will it be right out of the gate? I don't know. But I think at some point, the way he's trending, he'll be able to do that. And then I think between DJ Campbell, Neto, and Nate Kibble, I think you've got 3 really good options at guard. Now, look, DJ Campbell and Neto are your starters, and I think those jobs are about as set in stone as could be on day one of camp. But Nate Kibble continues to progress, and I don't know that Connor Strorod is going to get himself in that competition, but I love what he's done in terms of reshaping his body and the physical strides he's made to get himself in a position to compete. So that's going to be a position where through the 1s, 2s, and 3s, I think there's going to be competition all throughout camp. And this is good because, like, with a guy like Trevor Gooseby, you want to probably keep him as healthy as possible, minimize the risk with him. Mm-hmm. Well, that probably means more scrimmage snaps for guys like Jaden Chapman and Nick Brooks.
Yeah.
So, or you don't have to run Brandon Baker into the ground because Andre Kojo has earned the right to get some reps with the 1s. And I think the same thing with Nate Kibble at guard. You don't have to wear down Neto and DJ Campbell. So it's homegrown depth, 3 deep with scholarship guys. This is exactly where I've kind of always hoped and prayed the Texas offensive line would get at some point after watching it be just, for lack of a better term, just discombobulated for the better part of almost 2 decades. The fact that it is where it is now, I don't think anybody could be happier with where the Texas offensive line is.
No, it's one of the healthiest offensive line rooms in the country, considering you look at attrition rates, and if you're looking at just talent acquired, not having to go through the transfer portal, as you said, a lot of homegrown talent. It really is, and like I said, it's an outlier of a recipe. Like most big time programs have to rely on the transfer portal to fill in the gaps on the O-line. Most of them end up dealing with attrition. For the guys who are not playing, end up leaving to go elsewhere. Totally understand that's what the transfer portal is for. But Texas hadn't had that much. They've had some, but not that much attrition. And the guys have been able to stick around and stay in the system, stay in the program. So I'm with you. I think ideally, the thing about having a third, like looking for your third tackle and third guard, and he said this, Kyle Flood said this when he was talking to the media. He said, sometimes it's easy. Like Trevor Gooseby, it was easy because he could play right tackle and left tackle. It's like third tackle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever tackle goes down, you play that. But then you deal with, this guy's way more effective on the right or the left. The offensive line is better when this specific group or these specific combinations of players play together. There's a lot to consider there. But I'm with you. I think right now for Texas, you kind of have a luxury that you may have multiple guys you consider to be starters at those spots that you consider have starter caliber potential, and I think he may be that at right tackle, and that'd be a good problem to have if that's the case.
For our Longhorn Blitz listeners over the years, Rod, we are talking about talented depth along the offensive line.
Crazy.
It took us a decade plus doing it, Rod, but we finally got here. We finally arrived.
Thank you, Pancake Factory, and everything else that helped out with it. Yeah, that's a great point, though. I've been preaching about. You were preaching about that for a long time ago.
There have been years where I've just been like, man, can you find 5 guys that aren't going to get the quarterback killed? Like 5 guys with a pulse that can walk and chew gum at the same time.
When Sark first got it, remember he said he couldn't have a spring game because they didn't have enough offensive linemen on scholarship. Like. That's where the status of the O-line was when Sark got here, and they have completely rebuilt it, and it's one of the best rooms in the country. Let's continue on the offensive side of the ball, talking about open competitions here. That third wide receiver spot, DeAndre Moore's the leader in the wide receiver room. Ryan Wingo is, probably your freakiest weapon in the wide receiver room. But then you brought in Emmett Mosley. Love Emmett Mosley's film. He's just a bulldog for the football at the catch point. Yep. And I'm a big Parker Livingstone fan. At the circle of trust, I think it's probably going to stop with those 4 guys or the circle of trust of wide receivers, and there'll be a significant drop off after that. But who's going to be the third guy? Or are we going to see like a rotation of those guys between Emmett Mosley and Parker Livingstone, who wins that third wide receiver spot?
I think it's gonna be tough to determine it until you get to scrimmage situations, because Emmett Mosley passes the eye test. Like, just from a physical standpoint, watching him run around, you're like, okay, that's a guy. But I think with his skill set, Rod, I think it's gonna be not until he's in some 50-50 ball situations, until he's in some one-on-one situations. In other words, I think the competition is when you're really gonna see. That's hopefully when his game elevates, because it's tough. He's not going to do some of the things, and not to say he's not a good athlete or anything like that.
I'm with you though.
But in a routes on air setting, he's not going to be able to show the kind of juice that like Parker Livingstone, or even like a Jamie French or a Khalil Lockett, or even a Michael Terry from what we saw on day one. He's not going to show you that what those guys can show you. It's going to be more of, I don't want to say like, oh, he's a gamer and not a practice player, because I think that would be an incorrect observation, but I do think it's going to be more of uncertainty about Emmett Mosley until you get to those scrimmage situations.
I like what you said about that. Yeah, no, I'm with you, because there are certain guys, they stand out just kind of watching them in drills and, watching them on air or whatever it may be. And he's technically sound. I think he runs really good routes, but I'm with you. He doesn't necessarily wow you with freakish traits off the cuff, but in game settings, game modes, which scrimmages are most of the time, that's where I think he'll stand out. Because like you said, in critical moments, third downs and red zones, he may end up being a dude for you in those situations. And he's really smart. So football awareness, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit from kind of what we saw from Lil Jordan Humphrey. I'm not saying that kind of versatility, but like, if you look at Lil Jordan Humphrey in room, he wasn't the speedster that Devin Duvernay was. No, he didn't have that freaky high point ability like Colin Johnson did. But in a game situation on a third down, nobody I'd rather have the ball in his hands.
Running away. The chains. Was he running like a 4.7 out there? 4.7.
Wasn't very good. Wasn't very good at the combine.
Fast, but he was getting open though, to your point. I totally agree with you on that. All right, continuing a couple more spots I want to get to before we end things. How about the interior D line? And this is an embarrassment of riches. I think it's going to end up being, because like I said, I don't know if you have the high end players you've had recently there. I don't know if you have a national award winner, or a first or a second round pick in that group. But it does right now. But it does seem like I think you have more depth than I anticipated. I like that. Now, who's going to end up being the frontline starters for this group, and who end up being the four main guys in the rotation? I think that's probably going to be the competition that we're talking about. But there's no doubt they went and found themselves some answers at D tackle. I think they got a couple of them. And I'll say, I think Cole Brevard, Murad Watson, and Alex January are my three right now, my top three. But that could change, because I liked what I saw from some of the younger guys.
And you know what's interesting about that group is Hero Canoe was the guy leading the drills on day one.
Dude, he played a lot. He played a lot.
Yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah. So the makeup of that interior D line room reminds me of the edge room in 2023. So this is the year before they got Colin Simmons, where Barron Sorrell was what, a fifth round pick. Mm-hmm. Ethan Burke's probably going to be third, fourth, fifth round. Yeah. They didn't have Colin Simmons. We know top of the draft type stuff he's got physically and with the production. So I think it kind of reminds me of that room. Like you said, I don't know that there's that one guy that you look at and say, yeah, they're definitely like a top 50 type pick in the draft, like a first round type pick. They got that kind of potential. But I think they've got a real chance. And in some ways, I think they already are deeper than they were last year, with just the number of guys who can give them quality snaps. I mean, think about it. The four guys you mentioned, like Travis Shaw, we know can play.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of kind of like the same questions we had about this time last year about Jermaine Lole. We know Travis Shaw can play. It's just, will his body allow him to play, and how much will his body allow him to play? Now, thankfully, Texas got a full year. Like Jermaine Lole way surpassed my expectations compared to what they were. I don't think I'm alone in that. So maybe Travis Shaw is the same way. But, I mean, you're at the point now where in theory, could Myron Charles still give you something? Could Josiah Sharma still give you something? I mean, Melvin Hills is still on the team. So, yeah, I don't know how many guys that is, Rob, but you're like 6, 7 guys, maybe 8 guys deep with guys that actually can give you high leverage snaps.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you are deeper. I'm with you. I don't know about the war daddies on the defensive front, but you got quality depth there, and you don't need necessarily splash plays from that group this year. You got a lot of havoc-minded defenders around those guys to be able to wreak havoc. You really just need those guys to maintain at the point of attack. Just hold point. Hold point. Don't get moved back. Stay out of our linebackers' face. Keep them off of Anthony Hill. You keep them off of Anthony Hill, we're going to have a good defense.
That is exactly what Cole Brevard is going to do. And I think if there's going to be somebody that emerges as that guy in the room, Alex January's got a chance.
I feel like
you see he's got the tools. Is how quickly can he put it together? I think Murad Watson's like right there. I think hopefully once they get to some scrimmage with that first scrimmage coming up a week from Saturday, I think we'll hear about Murad Watson making some plays. And will he be is it first round type potential? I don't know, but you know what, Rod? I'm glad that he's going to be here for 2 years, and we'll get to see it play out.
I'm with you on that. Before we wrap things up, just really quickly, I don't know if these are kind of obvious position battles, but I think it's something that we've talked about. We do know punt returner now. Looks like it's going to be DeAndre Moore. Right? Looks like he's going to be the guy they put back there just to secure things in the kicking game. And I think did they bring up Ryan Niblett as well as another guy that they like in the return game too? I like that. That's another guy that could help him in the return game a little bit. And backup quarterback, I know people have brought this up. Obviously, Arch is the man, and we're going to knock on wood because we don't want anything to happen to Arch anyway. But people are thinking that, it will be an open competition between Trey Owens and Matthew Caldwell. Does seem early on that Matthew Caldwell may have at least more of a leg up in the competition than anticipated. I always thought, Trey Owens obviously knows the system, doesn't have not a game experience, but knows the system really well, has been in the system. But Matthew Caldwell has composure. He's poised, and I think that just comes with experience. That's something that the other guys just don't have.
Yeah, when the assistant coaches were available on Tuesday, I talked to AJ Milwee for a little bit about, the decision to go get a quarterback, the process he and Sark went through, and having honest conversations with Trey Owens and KJ Lacey, that it wasn't anything against their talent. They just needed a veteran guy. And Matthew Caldwell has been, I think, everything they thought he would be in the end some, but why should I keep talking about it when you can go ahead and hear from AJ Milwee right now?
You'd have to live under a rock to not know, but you still have to be honest on what are you walking into. And I think as long as you do that, they can see the writing on the wall, and as long as you're honest and you have those conversations the right way, then the kid has to make the decision on if that's what he wants to get himself into. But I just think the honesty early on was what was really important.
From him, a competitive spirit standpoint, just from what you've gotten to see being around him, how has he been in terms of adjusting to the room?
He's very competitive. He's adjusted really well. We sat in a meeting yesterday talking about, our strength coaches talking about guys, and they felt like, and from my watching, like he adapted really well into this world. Like he's athletic, he's competitive. He's developed a really good rapport with his teammates within the short amount of time that he's been here. So but that goes back to the maturity piece that we kind of recruited him for, right? A guy that's been in locker rooms, that's been in college football for a while, to create that, to have that maturity to be able to do those things in a short amount of time. We were very honest with Trey and KJ both. We had meetings with those guys. We're very transparent in our program. We're very honest. So, we had to tell them that. And we told them the same thing. You guys are young guys. We need somebody with some seasoning to them, with some maturity. And, that's what we told them. We were very upfront and honest about it.
So, yeah, I mean, this is, I think the fact that it looks like it's going to be a competition is good. We know the math, the history. History says you're probably going to need QB2 at some point. Therefore, I don't want QB2 to be in that role by default. Whoever it is,
win it.
I want to feel, and I know Sark and AJ Milwee feel the same way. They want to come out of camp feeling like, yes, this guy won it. He is our best option after Arch.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's a good point. I love that you don't want somebody just be given that job. It's way too important. You got to earn that one. No question. All right. Somebody else who has earned it is accomplished Austin Realtor Laura Baker. She has earned her great reputation in this market. And Football Theory brought to you by accomplished Austin Realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. So if you have any concerns or questions regarding real estate in the Austin area, don't hesitate. Reach out to her today at 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Or you can reach out at Laura at AndyAllenTeam.com. That's Laura at AndyAllenTeam.com. Thank you very much to Laura Baker and her team for sponsoring Football Theory. Jeff, thank you. Great stuff as always. Appreciate all of your expertise and knowledge. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, always twisting and tweaking the dials. Nobody does it better. That's why he's the real MVP. And for Jeff and for Matthew and for accomplished Austin Realtor Laura Baker, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em home.
Hook 'em.